So today, we're going to dive into something pretty intense, the fictional 2025 India-Pakistan conflict. Now, I know it's fictional, but it is built on very, very real tensions. And what it shows us is a startling new reality for modern warfare. We're going to unpack how our regional crisis just exploded and what it really tells us about the future of war itself. If we think we are going down, we'll take half the world down with us. Those are the actual chilling words of Pakistan's army chief, General Asim Munir. It's a direct, unambiguous nuclear threat. But the most shocking part? Well, it isn't just what he said, it's where he said it. That's right, this wasn't delivered from some command bunker deep underground. This was said at a black tie event, in a hotel in Tampa, Florida, on U.S. soil, in front of the Pakistani diaspora. A statement of nuclear war delivered like an after-dinner speech. It's wild.
So, you gotta ask, right? How on earth did we get to this point? To really understand that threat made in Florida, we have to rewind the clock a bit and look at the lightning-fast conflict that set the whole stage for this unbelievable moment. It all kicked off with what's being called the Four-Day War, back in the spring of 2025. And this wasn't some long, drawn-out campaign. No, this was a super rapid, violent escalation that honestly seemed to take everyone by surprise and pushed two nuclear-armed neighbors right to the absolute edge. Okay, let's just look at the timeline here because the speed is the key. On April 22nd, there's this horrific terror attack in Pahalgam. 26 civilians are killed. Just 2 weeks later, May 6th, India hits back hard with Operation Sindoor, a series of strikes. Only 4 days after that, Pakistan launches its counter-operation. And then, on that exact same day, after some frantic hotline talks brokered by the U.S., a ceasefire is suddenly declared. I mean, think about that. From a terror attack to a full-on military conflict and back to a shaky truce in less than 3 weeks. And here's where you see the two competing stories begin to form. India's Operation Sindoor was officially called a calculated force response. They said they were targeting the infrastructure of terror groups. Pakistan, on the other hand, called its Operation Bunyan-um-Marsoos a firm response to, in their words, Indian aggression, and they targeted military bases. Both sides claimed they were justified, but the real war, well, that was just getting started, and it wasn't going to be fought on the battlefield. Yeah, as the actual missiles were flying, a second front just completely erupted online. It was a full-scale information war, a battle of viral fakes, where the main goal was to control the story, no matter what it cost the truth. And this is just a perfect example of what I'm talking about. While the fighting was going on, a video of a jet being shot down went totally viral. It was even picked up and praised by a Pakistani government minister who called it a timely and nerve-wracking response, proof of their military success. There was just one tiny little problem. The footage. It wasn't real. It was from a video game. The military simulator, Arma 3, a simulation passed off as battlefield reality and amplified by a government official. This just brilliantly illustrates the new digital fog of war. And believe me, it was not an isolated incident. The misinformation was just out of control, a total digital free-for-all. Get this, a deputy prime minister shared an AI-generated front page of the Daily Telegraph, claiming a huge victory. A fake CNN infographic backing Pakistan's claims went viral. Old photos of crashed jets were just repurposed and passed off as new kills. Even footage from Iranian missile strikes from the year before was relabeled as a recent Indian attack. The goal was simple, just confuse everyone, mislead, and rally support back home, whatever it takes. And nothing, I mean nothing, shows this propaganda war better than the fight over downed aircraft. Look at this chart. Pakistan claimed it shot down 6 Indian jets. Not to be outdone, India claimed it shot down 6 Pakistani planes. But later, French intelligence came out with an estimate that India probably only lost 3 jets. In the end, the real numbers didn't matter as much as the narrative each side was trying to desperately sell. So when that U.S. brokered ceasefire finally happened on May 10th, the shooting might have stopped, but the war for perception, oh, that was just heating up. Both sides immediately, and I mean immediately, started declaring victory. Just listen to how they both framed the outcome. You had Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi declaring that India had once again defeated Pakistan on the battlefield. At the same time, his counterpart, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, was hailing his country's operation as a remarkable success. 2 countries, 2 completely opposite victory speeches. And of course, to really hammer that story home for the domestic audience, both countries rolled out the red carpet for their military leaders. Pakistan promoted its army chief, Asim Munir, to the super prestigious rank of Field Marshal. And not to be outdone, India promoted Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai, a key guy behind Operation Sindoor. Both of these moves sent a very clear message. We won. period. Which brings us right back to where we started, that hotel ballroom in Florida. And General, now Field Marshal Asa Munir. Now that we have the context of the war and these dueling victory claims, his shocking statements, well, they start to look a lot less like random angry words and a lot more like a very calculated, strategic move. And his nuclear threat wasn't the only provocative thing he said that night. He also used this crude but incredibly clear analogy. He compared India to a luxury car and Pakistan to a dump truck full of gravel. And then he asked who's going to be the loser in a collision. The message was blunt. We may not be as sleek or polished, but we can, and we will, cause catastrophic damage. So what General Munir was doing, there's actually a name for it. It's called nuclear saber rattling. It's when a country uses threats about its nuclear weapons, not for, immediate use, but to achieve political goals. It's a really high-stakes game of chicken, basically, designed to intimidate and influence your enemies. And analysts are pretty clear on this. Munir's rhetoric wasn't just a threat. It was a performance. It was a carefully calculated strategy that blended religious symbolism for his audience back home with a brand new, much more aggressive diplomatic style for the rest of the world to see.
So why? Why make this threat in the United States of all places? Well, analysts point to 4 big reasons. 1, he wanted to reestablish the idea of nuclear deterrence, which India had just challenged with its conventional strikes. 2, he needed to look strong for the folks back home. 3, it was a way to test the waters with a new, more transactional U.S. administration. And 4, he was trying to drive a wedge between the U.S. and India, hoping that Washington would pressure New Delhi to back off in the future.
And the response from Washington? It was fascinatingly divided, to say the least. Officially, you had public silence from the State Department, which seemed to suggest they were prioritizing their strategic re-engagement with Pakistan. But unofficially, behind the scenes, you had people from the foreign policy establishment who were just furious. Some former officials even called Pakistan a rogue state and demanded action.
So here's the bottom line. The fallout from this very short, 4-day conflict, it signaled a dangerous new chapter. The old rules of engagement, both on the battlefield and in the world of diplomacy, seem to have been completely thrown out the window.
So what are the big takeaways from all this? I think there are 3. First, nuclear threats aren't some whispered last resort thing anymore. They're becoming a tool of public diplomacy, delivered at cocktail parties. Second, disinformation isn't just background noise. It's a primary weapon of war, as important as any missile. And third, the shifting priorities of global powers like the U.S. can end up pouring gasoline on regional fires, making the world a much more dangerous place. And that leaves us all with one final and pretty unsettling question. As warfare keeps evolving, moving way beyond the traditional battlefield, are we, as a global community, really prepared for this new world? A world where nuclear threats are made in hotel ballrooms and where wars for hearts and minds are fought with AI fakes and clips from video games? This 2025 crisis, it kind of suggests we're not.